The Model S was introduced in 2012, and today, 13 years later, we have the Model S Plaid, maybe the ultimate form. Obviously we had the P100D, we had cheetah stands, we had ludicrous mode, but today in 2025 this might be the ultimate iteration of a 13-year-old car. My name is Peter, and in this video I'm going to take you around this Model S Plaid. We're going to do a bit of driving obviously, but we're mainly going to see if the Model S is still relevant today. Because in the meantime, obviously a lot of manufacturers have caught up. The whole EV game has moved on light years almost compared to 2012 when this car was revolutionary in its kind. And we're going to see if this car still works today. Here in the front it's of course a typical Tesla Model S design, and we're going to have a look at the front right away, because that is something that even manufacturers today can't get right for some reason. 89 liters according to Tesla. It looks smaller to me, but there is a surprising amount of space because it goes into the car quite deeply. So there's a few Tesla charging cables and accessories laying around now, but this is big enough for hand luggage, for your shopping and so on. Very convenient and nice that you don't have to open the boot all the time. Taking you around the car, 19-inch wheels on this version. Big wheels obviously to carry a big car. It's a big vehicle, especially after driving the Model 3 last week in a previous video. I'll link it above. It's a large vehicle and it feels big when you're driving it too. 2 meters wide and nearly 5 meters long. So it is an impressive big sedan, and it feels like that when you're driving. But it's not intimidating in the sense that you can't put it anywhere. It is relatively easy to maneuver, also thanks to the visibility. But it is a big vehicle, there's no way around it. Weighs 2.5 ton dry, so it's also a heavy vehicle, mainly due obviously to the big 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. That gives this car a WLTP range of about 600 kilometers. Now you can see the snow on the ground. It's a day in January, I think it's about 3 degrees. So we're not going to make 600 kilometers today, but it is a car that, if you're careful with the throttle, has very good range as well. There's a few typical things with Tesla. First of all, obviously you connect your phone and everything is done through the app and through the screen inside. An example of that are these door handles that are always flush with the body, obviously for better aerodynamics, and you have to tap them and then they'll come out. Normal door handles are always easier, but I suppose it works fine, as long as your phone is connected and your Bluetooth is on and your account is synchronized and all those things. But Tesla still gives you a sort of a credit card kind of key that you can touch up here as well as an emergency backup. Going around the car, it's a typical Tesla Model S shape. Charging port is right here. Obviously the Tesla supercharger network is one of the big selling points for Tesla. This car is no different. They don't do the full lifetime free supercharging anymore, unfortunately. So you're going to have to pay for it, but thanks to that supercharger network, you can charge fast. It works with the navigation and all those things. It is quite nice how well that is integrated. I'll show you the boot right away as well. Obviously powered. It is enormous. I said the same thing in the Model 3. It is surprisingly big. If I lift this up, you can see how much space there is in here. According to Tesla, it's about 700 liters. Well, I didn't test that. It doesn't seem that high, but there is a lot of space, and also there is a lot of space under the double floor. Here's a whole extra bit of space that fits hand luggages easily. And if I lift this up further, you can see that this comes out all the way, and then you can actually move things around accordingly. So quite nice, and it is obviously another 1,000 liters when you put the rear seats down. And then you can put mountain bikes in here, refrigerators, all those things. And the load lip isn't even that big because it's only this high. So it's really, really practical. And this is not even the Model X, which is obviously the SUV that is even bigger. While we're back here, there's obviously two key items here that stand out for the Plaid. That's this carbon spoiler and the Plaid badge. That's the one where you recognize that this is the fast one, that this is the ultimate Model S version. So, you know, seeing this car driving around, you might not have any idea what it is until you see the badge. The ones who know will know. Now, over the years, Tesla has had some quality issues, let's call it that way. It's improved massively over the years, but it's not gone yet. So when you look here, you have the line where the body panel meets the boot lid, which is fine. You can see it's not entirely even here, but it's sort of okay. But once you run your finger around it, you feel that it's not matching up. So those are still little quality issues that occur with Teslas. There's no way around it. It is not the full-on German or Chinese quality quite yet. And it's the same here. You can see the gap. I can almost move my finger between the boot lid and the rest of the body panel. So yeah, those things still exist, and over time that might start to leak or have water coming in or whatever. So those are still things to pay attention to. Overall though, it is a fantastically nice sedan to drive, as we'll see later. And I think the shape, especially with this stealth gray, looks really good on the road as well. Sitting here in the front of the Model S Plaid, it is a very Tesla-like experience. If you've seen the Model 3 video that we did last week, it is a lot of the same, but there are a few key differences. So let's get started. First of all, this is the premium black interior with carbon and sport seats. So these are the sport seats that are a little hard, but supportive. And I fit in them with my enormously broad shoulders, so that is also quite nice. The carbon you see here in the middle on the dash and here on the door. So those are some trinkets. They don't add anything to the equation really. It's not weight saving or anything, of course. But you know, it does look kind of nice, I think. There is, like any Tesla, there is a giant absence of any kind of buttons. The only actual switches you have are the window switches here and the two scroll wheels on the steering wheel. Those are the only actually moving parts in this interior. Everything else is capacitive touch. So even the door button is not a real button, but it is a capacitive surface that you can touch and then open the door. Other than that, the materials are actually quite nice. It's all very dark and very black in this premium black interior, but thanks to the panoramic roof we have a lot of extra light. So that's good. The steering wheel also very black and very Tesla, so only the two scroll wheels and everything else is capacitive on here. So your wipers, your cruise control, your lights and your indicators are all capacitive buttons. It's surprising how quickly you get used to it, especially the indicators are something that I thought would take longer to get used to. But as I said, the same in the Model 3 video, it takes 10 minutes and then your sort of brain is rewired that you always have to press there. What's not so handy is, for example, the wiper options. You press the button to activate. Most of the time you have it on auto and it's going to be fine. But if you want to change the setting, you then have to use the scroll wheel. So it's an interaction with two parts of the steering wheel and you have to look at the screen in order to find the setting that you want. So that can be a bit of a hassle, but I can imagine once you have this car for a couple of months, then it becomes muscle memory to do those things automatically. I mentioned the screen. That is a great improvement as far as I'm concerned over the Model 3 that we drove, because that only had the middle screen and nothing else in front of you. You get used to it, but the screen is distracting at times. The fact that everything had to happen in the screen in the Model 3 takes your eyes off the road too often, in my opinion. It's very nice to have the driver display in front of you that you can see through the steering wheel, not necessarily to look on it for a long period of time, but it is nice that it's glanceable information. Your speed, your state of charge, your navigation, like a few things that you can see there is just convenient without having to take your whole field of vision away from the road and towards the middle of the car. So I actually quite prefer this, and it's nice and bright as well. Same goes for the middle screen, obviously. So this is a great addition for me in this car over the Model 3. I mentioned the big screen. Obviously, the whole part of the Tesla experience is around this screen in the car. So when I press on car, you can see that the car is the correct color and that it also interacts with what you're doing. So if I open the door will open. Same thing with the boot. If I open the boot, it will open in real life and on the screen. Little touches, but I really like that because it is just so much easier. The sensors are in the car anyway, so you might as well use it and have this little bit of extra interaction. And you can also see that the car is the correct color, obviously. This is where you do everything with the car. So you can see mirrors here, steering wheel. You have to interact with the screen and with the scroll wheels on the steering wheel to adjust those kind of things. I understand the minimalism and the cost savings and so on, but it is inconvenient. In reality, you're not going to be adjusting your steering wheel all the time, but it is cumbersome if you want to make small adjustments while you're going, that you always have to be in the screen. Other than that, obviously you're going to spend some time in this software to set up the car exactly the way you want, and because it's connected to your phone and your profile and so on, everything will be the way you want it to be. So if you share this car with a spouse or with other people, as soon as it connects your phone to the driver profile, everything is set up, the seat, the memory, the mirrors and everything, even the air conditioning, just the way you want it. So that's nice. And the Tesla software experience obviously today cannot be compared to 13 years ago when it was introduced, thanks to all the updates and all the new features that they can put in here. And that is actually, it's quite impressive that they can still do it that way and still keep the car fresh that way. Because obviously the interior has evolved over time as well, but it's still very classic, very minimalistic, and the software experience dominates the whole usage of the car. And by improving that constantly, it feels like the car gets improved a lot too, which it does. They add range, they add power, they can add all those things over the air, which is pretty amazing. And I think a very integral part of the Tesla experience. I'm not a software reviewer though, so we're going to leave that for what it is and look at the rest of the car. We have a quite tiny rear view mirror here. If the camera woman turns around, it shows also not that much of a rearwards view. It's a bit rainy now, obviously. This is, by the way, the downside of not having a rear wiper. Of course, it'll all gonna blow off when you're driving and so on, but when you're standing still, your window gets full of water. So traffic lights, or if you can't park in a garage, for example, it is gonna be compromised in terms of rearwards visibility. Luckily, there's a button on the steering wheel for all the cameras, so if I press that, then we're gonna get the rearwards view on both sides and the full rearwards view. And this is something you can have on at any speed, so that's fantastic. A lot of manufacturers turn this off as soon as you go above, let's say, 10 kilometers an hour, but here you can always call it on the screen to look around, which is nice. Then, underneath the screen, we have 2 charging pads. You can see our phones there, wireless charging, obviously, so that is great. Also a good angle, so they don't fly out or anything, so that's great. And we have the capacitive alarm button right here as well. More carbon here in the middle tunnel, that is part of the carbon pack. If I open this, you can see a cup holder and a deep hole. That deep hole can be changed into a smaller hole, where I have my sunglasses and my garage clicker, as you can see. So that's actually very convenient. You can use it in 2 different ways. And also the cup holders can be put away if you don't need them, and then you have a giant hole. Very convenient, very useful. If you look carefully, I don't know if you can see it properly, but there's 2 USB ports over there, and there is even a 12-volt connection over there. Feels like it's a bit put out of the way, as in, oh, we have to put it in so we can name it as a feature, or maybe there's even some kind of legal reason it has to be there. But we rather have you get a wireless charging phone. Either way, it is convenient that it's there, and with the carbon, I think it looks quite nice. I'm not sure how durable this is though. If any of you in the comments have a carbon tunnel or carbon decals in their car, let me know how durable it is. That's something I can't test in the week that I have this car, but it's something I'm keen to know. Further back, we have a big armrest that doesn't really need to move, but it can be opened if you want to, and then there's another storage bin down here with no USBs or any other kind of connection, so that is just for storing stuff. And that is the front of the cabin for you. I already mentioned the panoramic roof. It's nice to have a bit of extra light with this all black interior. And all around, it's not an unpleasant place to be. You feel the size of the car, especially looking out of the dash. You feel that it's a broad car, especially. But there's a lot of air in here. There's a lot of space. And it just generally feels like a luxurious place to be. Even though it's very minimalistic, and even though the seats are a little bit hard, it feels, yeah, luxurious to be here. Feels modern. Smells nice too. So yeah, overall it's a good place to be with a good connection to the car. All right, driving the Model S Plaid currently on the highway. And before we do this driving part, I have to say that we are on the public road. It is January, it is currently 6 degrees, and it's been snowing and raining for the past few days. Let's say not ideal to drive a car with over 1,000 horsepower. And especially the fact that this is the public road is something I want to emphasize. This car is so fast that it is almost irresponsible to drive it flat out on the public road. The way this car generates speed, it is too fast to handle and comprehend for the rest of traffic. Where the car might be capable, the rest of traffic certainly cannot estimate how quickly you are approaching when you give this the full beans. So we're going to try to keep it safe today, and obviously still give you an impression of what the car is capable of. But do bear in mind that we are on the public road, and some things simply aren't possible. So currently we are in one of 3 driving modes, in chill mode to be exact, which is the least aggressive of all the driving modes. There's chill, sport and plaid with increasing amounts of horsepower and speed. And even in the chill mode, I don't know exactly how much horsepower you got, but you are basically one of the fastest cars around already. We're doing 65 now, going onto the highway. Well, there's a bit of other traffic, but even if I feather the throttle a little bit, the way you gather speed is amazing already. This is more than enough for not only your daily driving, but also highway driving or any kind of faster driving. Merging on the highway now, I'll move over a lane right away. And even now, so we're doing 100, I floor it, 10, 20, 30, 40. So, you know, you're not flying out of your seat right away, but you are gaining speed at a considerable pace already. Moving on to sport mode, it's 2 taps of a button and you are in the middle of 3 settings. There's also 3 settings for the steering wheel, by the way, light, medium and heavy. I prefer the light one, which is still not very light, still gives you a good amount of feel in the steering wheel, and the heavy one doesn't really add anything for me. Being in the sport mode now, you make a significant step up. So again, we're doing about 100 now. If I floor it, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and it is bye-bye driver's license here in the Netherlands. So the way you gather speed in that sport mode is already borderline crazy. It is so fast, so quickly, that you really got to have your wits about you in terms of what you're doing. So the surface here is nice because it's Dutch highways, it's all very nice. But the problem mostly is distance. The way you gather speed and the way you cover ground, distances just shrink in front of you like snow in front of the sun. It is amazing how quickly you get from here to there and how suddenly you are in the middle of a situation that you didn't even see coming because you were so far away. And the fact that you can buy this car with a driver's license that's 2 weeks old or borrow your dad's car is almost irresponsibly crazy that that's possible. And this is still in the normal, in the medium mode of 3. Here in the back of the Model S Plaid, we of course are going to make full use of that 2.90 meter wheelbase. And where the car is very long, you would expect a ton of room back here, and there is some truth in that, but let's explore it together. First of all, you can see the knee room for me as 1.83 meter, 90 kilo person is fairly good. Sitting behind myself, all is well. But it has to be because the back of the seat is rock hard. So you don't want to touch this with your knees at all because that gets uncomfortable in a hurry. What is uncomfortable to begin with is the seat itself. It's quite contoured, as you can maybe see here on this seat. And obviously I'm extremely broad-shouldered, so I just don't fit in the seat that well. So for me, long distance in this seat is probably not going to be ideal. That said, it is definitely not ideal here in the middle, because this seat gets very hard very quickly, especially the backrest is quite hard. So thanks to the lack of a transmission tunnel, I can sit here fairly easily and also move around back here quite easily. But yeah, it is not the most comfortable seat here in the middle at all, for an adult at least. For a kid, for a short journey, no issues. You go back behind myself, there is quite a lot of seat in front of you, they're massive. So there's a lot of light that gets blocked from the front. You can still have a reasonable connection, especially to the passenger. And you can get quite a lot of information from the front window, so it's not like you can't see out or anything. But they do block a lot of view, especially for kids that sit a lot lower than me, obviously. The windows are rather small, so luckily we have the panoramic roof for that extra light. But especially with all this black, it feels a lot smaller in here. And that smallness is further enhanced because of the roof line. You can see that with 183 I can, well, maybe to put 2 fingers between my head and the roof. So it is not super spacious back here. It's fine, but obviously if you want that extra volume, you're going to get a Model X or Y, because those are higher cars. You can also see that my legs are quite far off the bench, especially here. So there's not that much under thigh support due to the bench just being low and the floor also being low, obviously with that skateboard design. So yeah, you sit quite upright with you sit quite far up with your knees, which is not always very comfortable. Before we get to the screen, 2 more things to look at. First of all, the armrest is released with a button back here. And it's quite large, very pleasant that way. If the armrest is too short and we have these exposed cup holders, you're always in the cup holders with your wrist or with your elbow. But because it's such a long unit, no issue that they're not covered, that they're all the way out front. So that is okay. If we open this up, there is some spot for your phone, and there is a little square here for maybe a bag of candy or something, because nothing else really fits in here. But nice that it is all organized this way. That is cool. Then we get to the ISOFIX situation for anybody with kids that still uses car seats. It's nicely covered by this whole panel, and this whole panel slides upwards, so you get access to the ISOFIX points. Nice solution, although you have to press it quite far in order to reach the bars in here. But this is, you know, solid, stays in place, doesn't fly away, and it prevents anything from rolling in there. So that is, as far as I'm concerned, excellent. Then the big one, obviously, the big screen here in the back. If you have kids, they're gonna love it. My boys really like sitting in the back of this car because of the screen. Simple things like temperature, ventilation, seat heating, music, obviously, watching a movie, Netflix, YouTube, anything you want. And the big one, obviously, is games that you can play back here. It is a bit annoying to play on the screen, but you can connect game controllers and headphones to the screen, and then your kids will be fine for the 600-kilometer journey that this car is theoretically capable of. So all around, not a bad back seat at all. There is space enough, technically speaking, but yeah, with the low seat and the hard seat in front of you, it's not ideal, especially with this low roofline. So I think anybody bigger than me will have some issues back here for sure. And even somebody my size is already, it's a borderline situation. But that said, it is still nice with the flat floor and the space in general back here. The driving experience is quite nice. You have a good view out, there's a lot of light, and you have a good overview of the car. You need to, because it's a big car, but it is easy to place, especially going in a straight line forward. When you start to maneuver in a parking garage, obviously it gets slightly trickier because the car is big, but thanks to the cameras you can see basically anything. And driving like this, yeah, it's a comfortable place to be. It's quiet in here. I said the same in the Model 3, so we got double glazing and so on. And the drivetrain is quiet. There's a bit of tire noise, obviously, from the big tires. But overall, it's a pleasant driving experience. Good cruising car. You can put it in autopilot and all those things and just have a pleasant journey ahead. So that's actually quite great. What's especially great for me is the driver's display, something that I really lacked in the Model 3, where everything happens in the middle screen. It's just nicer to have that glanceable information underneath your field of vision with your speed and your lane changing and your autopilot settings and so on. So that's actually really adds to the driving experience for me. And then if you combine it with the compliance of the car, with the big rubber, with the strong brakes, and the sort of chunky, confident feel that you get the moment you get in, it's quite a pleasant driving feeling overall. You sit low, the car is low, it's wide, so you have that sort of sport car stance, and you feel that immediately as you get into the car. And you're going to need that because it's a fast car with 322 kilometers an hour top speed. Obviously, we won't reach that today, but it is a car that has so much capabilities, and you need to feel confident in order to use those capabilities. And you do. This car does make you feel confident. So in order to gain even more confidence, we're going to go to PLAID mode. Again, 2 taps and we are there. I'll do another 100 pull. It will probably go even faster than I can talk. So we're doing 106 now, full power. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 200. Absolutely out of control fast. It is so fast. It is unbelievable how fast this is. I mean, I've driven plenty of cars with 4, 5, 6, 700 horsepower, no issues whatsoever, and those feel fast, but this is on a whole different stratosphere. It is incredible how quickly you cover distance. It's almost mind-boggling, and it is so hard to anticipate how fast you're going. If you have it in PLAID mode and you're coming on the highway, in a second you're doing speeds that are already illegal, and if you keep your foot planted for more than 2 seconds, you're approaching all kinds of speeds that are completely irresponsible. This is a car that is not suitable for beginner drivers, for young people, or whoever thinks that they can drive. This is a car that requires a lot of driving experience. And that by no means I'm saying I'm the best chauffeur in the world, but at least I have 25 years of driving experience under my belt, which is something you need in order to be able to process what is happening. And obviously as you drive this car longer term, you get used to the speed, but getting in this car fresh and touching PLAID mode is completely irresponsible. So that is an absolute no-go as far as I'm concerned. Sitting here, and it messes with your brain in ways as well, because sitting here, I am basically the fastest moving vehicle in all of traffic. There's in the general automotive world, there's not much that can touch this in terms of raw acceleration. No Porsches, no Ferraris, like you have to come with something extremely exotic to beat this, not only off the line, but also in general in a straight line. And those cars are just not around that much. So driving this car, you're the fastest, most capable, hardest accelerating car in all of traffic, which is a weird concept to drive around with. And at some point, you will start to take liberties with it that are irresponsible. So it does require, again, a lot of discipline to have a car with this much performance available at the touch of a button. But then putting everything back in chill mode, suspension in comfort mode, everything in relaxed mode, it's perfectly reasonable and perfectly drivable. So it is a car really with characters that you can select and go absolutely crazy with if you want to. But at the same time, it's a car that allows you to be comfortable and relaxed as well. And that's even before we touch drag strip mode and circuit mode and race mode and drift mode, where you can set the car up in terms of power delivery, front to rear, drift options, brake cooling, and so on. So you can even go completely crazy in the software if you want to. Today on this road in January with this temperature, that is obviously not happening. Maybe we can do that sometime in the summer on a racetrack, but it is all possible. And that is actually maybe one of the themes of this car as well, that what you can do with software and how you can change the character of a car is pretty amazing. After all that driving, we end up at the natural habitat of the Model S Plaid, which is the Tesla supercharger station. After a week with this car, I don't think you need the Plaid. The speed, it is so outrageous, you can't use that on the public road, especially not here in the Netherlands. And the normal Model S is about 95,000. This one starts at 110, so you can save yourself some money and don't really need the Plaid. That said, the horsepower to money ratio is crazy. You don't find that anywhere else. And using this amount of horsepower, even if it's occasionally, is an absolute mind-blowing experience. You do gotta be careful because the rest of traffic isn't ready for it. But when you do get the chance to open it up, it is pretty damn impressive. This car in this age, despite the fact that it's 13 years old, I think still fits. The looks, you can agree or not, but I think it still looks okay. It's a sort of a timeless design, if you will. And with all the improvements software-wise and all the small tweaks Tesla makes on the outside, I still think it's a car that fits in the modern era. All around, I think it's a great car. It's a nice Tesla experience. It's roomy, it's big, everything fits in it, and it's a pleasant cruising car, travel car, but also in and around town, it is more than fine to drive. So, not much to complain. I like it. There's still some details in terms of button placement, lack of things in the cabin, the panel gaps and so on still exist, but I think overall it's a quality product and a timeless design, like I said. That's all I got for you for this video. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. A sub to the channel is always appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers!